You're listening to the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast, where our goal is to help you experience the happier marriage that you desire and deserve. Today's topic is finding balance when your husband is an aspiring entrepreneur. This episode will focus on the challenges you face in your marriage as you try to juggle the various roles and responsibilities as a supportive partner, while at the same time making certain your concerns are acknowledged as you push for keeping the marriage strong and not feeling like you are being taken for granted. That's what we'll be talking about in this episode. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to the Happier Marriage Podcast, a podcast for spouses longing to have a happier marriage so they can feel more connected, desired and supported. Now, to start the show, here is your host and Sherpa, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified relationship coach, Kingsley Grant.
So here you are with a husband who is passionate about his business idea, but the long hours is taking a toll on the marriage. You're feeling that, you're experiencing that, you're living that, and it's creating some inner turmoil and other issues as well. You're feeling neglected, possibly, and your husband is possibly feeling conflicted because a part of him feels guilty and misunderstood, and the other part feels like he needs to keep pushing forward with his business idea for the good of the family. He feels that what he is doing and working on is the best interest of the family, which we'll talk about more in this episode. Here's what I know. This is a common struggle. I know this from personal experience to some degree, but also from speaking to so many other couples who find themselves in a similar situation like you do. And the chance is that you and your husband both want the same thing, which is a peaceful home, a happy family, and a fulfilling life together. Would you kind of agree to that to some degree? Yeah, I think you would or I thought you would, because yes, I think there's just how you're going about getting there is possibly the issue. And so the key is open communication and finding ways to support each other's dreams. When that is not happening, it creates a conflict. And how that is done is something we'll unpack right after this.
So, the big question is this. How is it possible that you have a happier marriage when you feel like you've tried everything? Your spouse isn't making an effort. You're exhausted. You feel like giving up. Or there's so much hurt that's taken place between you and your spouse. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
There is a quote by Mignon McLaughlin that says, "A successful marriage requires falling in love many times, always with the same person." And many couples face the challenge that you are facing of balancing ambition with family life. I know this from personal experience myself, where this kind of a tightrope walking, and this balancing act is very tricky at times because it can sometimes lead to resentment and maybe just feelings that are really not helpful, but it's understandable because it's easy to feel resentful when our needs aren't being met. That is one of those things that creeps up within us, and we find ourselves acting in certain ways and doing certain things and being short with each other and easily irritated and annoyed. And because we're feeling these resentment and feeling these other emotions, within us, right? But remember, the Bible tells us in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 2, it says to be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. And you might be saying, Kingsley, you don't understand. That's what I've been doing. And it seems like nothing has changed. Everything keeps going the same way. And you're feeling frustrated. Well, here's what I do know, that when the Bible tells us to do something, there's a reason why God have said that. It's not because God did not know your situation and what you're experiencing. So when he says be completely humble and gentle and be patient, bearing with one another in love, there is a reason. Now, this is true not just for you, but also for your husband as well. So as a husband, if you're listening to this, this is also for you. So don't think it is just for your wife. And it's so important for patience to be activated. I realize that when I'm in a situation working on my side, my business, this as an aspiring entrepreneur myself, and I feel like there is this sense of disconnect or sense of just a tension. You know it's there, you feel it, and no one had to actually say that to you. You are feeling there's something kind of off in the relationship. But here's what I do know. This idea of patience is something that have to be practiced. I have to many times access that part of my being where patience reside. I have to also pray and ask God for his wisdom and to help me with being patient, because it sometimes wears on us if we're being honest. And you would probably agree with that, wouldn't you? Now, what I find is, how do we find common ground? What are some of the things we can do to find common ground? So I'm going to share with you first, for you as a wife, some things that you can do to find a common ground. And then afterwards, I'll share to you as an aspiring entrepreneurial husband, what you also can do in this regard. So the first thing I want to share for you as a wife, that you want to schedule a heart-to-heart talk with your husband. Now, some people may describe that as a come to Jesus moment, but I don't want to use that term here because it sounds like it becomes it's an ultimatum. It becomes a very, one of those moments where it's tense and it's like almost laying down the law, so to speak. So I know there's a time and place for that. This is not one of those, right? This heart-to-heart is one of love. It's one of empathy. It's one of truly sincerely wanting to get your husband's attention. And so you're going to express your feelings in a loving way, right? Focusing on how much you appreciate your husband's hard work, but also share your needs, for connection and support. See, many times it's not what is being said. It's both what's being said and the delivery of how that was given and expressed to your husband, right? And of course, this is true about communication. People may say that, hey, it's not about what you say, it's how you say that. I say, well, no, it's both. It's both. Because some people may say things they want, but then feel as if they present it in a how way that sounds soft and kind and gentle and soft-spoken, then that is okay. No, because people can say some mean things, but because they say it in a way that you should be okay with that. No, so it's both what and how, right? The second thing I want to suggest to you as a wife is to listen to your husband's vision. Try to understand his passion for the business, the endeavor he's pursuing, his goals for the future. Sometimes we as husbands have a hard time communicating to you as a wife what really needs to be communicated. We, in our minds, we are thinking that, you should understand, and we kind of assume that because we are doing this, and you should recognize that this is something I'm doing for the family, the husband may say. But I think it's important that you help us. So you helping your husband by asking him certain questions. Let him describe what it is he's working on and invite him to continue to do that from time to time. And when he does, please, can I say this very lovingly, show some interest. Ask follow-up questions. Make it seem as if you may not even understand what he's doing because it's foreign language to you. He might be speaking the language. You have no clue because it's not your cup of tea, but it might be okay to just show that you are trying to understand and you appreciate the fact that he's taking the time to share with you what he is doing at that time. Thirdly, I would suggest then that you also work together to create a plan. Right? Maybe he can delegate some tasks or set boundaries on work hours to ensure quality time for the family. And you could find a way to talk about that and how you could get to that point. What would that look like? So mutually, you could go back and forth that gives each person a more satisfactory outcome. Right? One of those things I have done because I recognize that to do the things that I need to do, it requires a lot of manpower, and I still have my other business that I do as a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach, and doing that in a day-to-day where I'm in the trenches doing that one-to-one while building out the one-to-many business. So what I had to do was to invest in getting help. I had to come to the place where I realized I needed help and recognize that I could find some other people who are very capable, and in some instances more than I am, because that's their skill set, to find them and ask for help. And so what I've done is invested in virtual assistants so that they can help me, right? So these assistants are quite capable and reliable so that I can just dedicate those tasks so I can focus my attention on what it is I need to do, the important things that I need to do. Doesn't mean I cannot do those things I've dedicated, but I realize if I want to redeem time so I can spend with my family, my wife, because my kids have now grown and they're adults, then I need to then be okay with that. And that's what I have done, which have been very helpful for me. So work together, right, to create this plan of what that may look like. Because your husband may not even recognize that there's parts of what he's doing that he could delegate, and you might be able to bring that to his attention from the conversation or remind him of that possibility. The next thing I would suggest is remember you're a team. So it's important to encourage and support him, but also to be honest about your needs, because it's not just a one-way street. It's not just he doing all these different things and somehow you, in what you want to do, should somehow be overlooked or dismissed or somehow just not given attention, right? So it's a teamwork, and it's a way to communicate that to him and see how that can be done. I would suggest those things for you as a wife. Now, for you as a husband, here's what I would suggest as, aspirational as you are and wanting to get these things done. I get it. I really get it, because I can relate to that, because I find myself in the very same situation or a similar situation. Let me put it that way. I might be in a different stage of this than you are, but I can relate to that, right? So here's what I want to suggest that you do is communicate openly and honestly with your wife. Let her know how much her support means to you. That means sometimes just out of nowhere, spontaneously just offer a gratitude statement, an appreciation statement. Let her know how much, what it is, how she kind of protect, especially if your kids are younger, how she protects your space and give you the chance to do the work you need to do. And so it's been supportive in that way. Sometimes she may not even hear from you because you're taking that for granted. So it's important to let her know that what she is doing helps you to do what you do. Secondly, be present even when you're busy, right? Sometimes you're so in your zone and you have pressing and urgent matter and feel like you've got to give every waking moment to working on this thing, that when you're even with your family, you're not really with them. Your mind is someplace else, or you're on your phone, or you're distracted, and they don't feel as if you're connecting with them. You're there with them. So make quality time a priority, even if it's just a few minutes of focused conversation where you are not distracted by the things you're doing, but you're present with your wife and with your children as well. Thirdly, I would suggest show appreciation, and I kind of hinted at that earlier, for her sacrifices. Thank her for her understanding and support and her willingness to help make certain that you go after your dream, because she recognized that this is not just for you, it's for the family. And she appreciates that, but you need to also reciprocate, right? And let her know how much you appreciate what she is doing. You know, the Bible says in Proverbs 18, verse 22, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. This verse reminds us that a strong marriage is a blessing from God. And so when you recognize that your wife is really, and I just hate to say it this way because it may sound not personal, but just to keep in the context, when you find a wife, you know, you find a good thing and you receive favor from the Lord. So she has become a part of what it is that brings blessing in your life. And if she's willing to kind of put up with your stuff, not many wives are willing to do that. So when your wife is doing that, remember, that's what a blessing that you have, and you want to cherish that, right? So here's what I do know, that building a business and a strong marriage takes time, right? It takes effort. It takes compromise from both partners. You know, I've been at this working with couples for many, many years, almost 2 decades. And I've really, through whether it's counseling or coaching, have come across a number of experiences that these couples present. And I realize that sometimes they, in some instances, want to get this strong marriage overnight, or they want to get to this place where others have taken time to build, and they will cite other relationships. And I try to encourage them, no, don't do that, because everyone is at a different stage of their relationship, and you cannot compare that. It's not fair for your relationship. And remember, the contexts are totally different. So what you may see in other couples may not be the true essence of what's happening, because you don't have the full story. When you see what's posted on social media and you begin to feel envious and feel like, how come this person is, their family, their marriage, their wife is supportive of the husband, or the husband is understanding and so appreciating the wife. You see on the outside what's happening, but you don't know what truly is going on. And again, they may have worked through some of these things that we're describing here, and so they're farther ahead and have a routine, a system that is in place that helps them to do the things they are doing. But it's important to recognize that these are important parts, that it takes time and it takes effort, intentionality, and it's the reason why one of the things I want to share with you that you're going to hear more and more in the future. I'm really shifting a little bit here, my focus from the happier marriage secrets to building happier marriages. So that will be the renaming of the podcast, because I believe it's something that you're doing, you're building, you are the designer of what it is you want. You both are the designers. And so every action you take, every behavior, every conversation, it is part of what you're doing to build a happier marriage, and you're designing that. And it's important to remember all these things I'm mentioning goes into the building process, right? Remember, it's not about who wins or who sacrifices more, right? It's not about keeping track of those things. It's about working together to create a life that fulfills both of you and allows your family to thrive. That's the essence of what it is that you're looking for, right? Remember now, communication is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship. I have said that in so many different ways, and you'll hear me keep on saying that because that is so important. Now, one of the things I've done is taken this a step further, and I have said that godly communication is the most effective, the best way for you to experience the kind of relationship you're looking for. Would you agree with that? Now, this is a whole lot to unpack, and it would take me more than one episode to unpack that. And that's why I'm working towards actually creating a program. I just wanted to let you know up front, and you might be the first to hear this, but I'm creating this program called Happier Marriage by Design. Happier Marriage by Design. This program will work on how you can design this kind of marriage that you find yourself in, and what are the things that goes into that, right? So I want to because that's going to be something you'll hear more about in the future. So I want you then to focus on how you're communicating, talking openly and honestly with each other about your needs, but also your fears and your dreams, right? The aspirations. These are things you want to have conversation about, deep conversation that many couples are not doing because of one thing or another. There's a quote that says, it's by an anonymous, but it says, communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. Let me say that again. Communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity, right? Then we could also say it's not just communication, it's effective communication, right? Because not all communication is communication. So I would say effective communication. And as you heard me said a few moments ago, I would add the word godly communication, which includes and implies effective communication, right? So remember, even small changes can make a big difference. So something like scheduling a date night. My wife and I make certain that every single week we have a day set aside, which normally is a Friday, for our date night. That is something we look forward to in our relationship. Now, it did not come easy for us to create that. It took some time, trial and error, to find the time that works for us, because it may not be the same time that works for most people, but by trial and error and intentionality and determination, you can get to that place where that date night is fixed, it's on the calendar, and unless an emergency occur or you both choose not to use that because you have some other things present, but those are exceptions, right? The regular thing should be the date night that you've created. You can also plan some family fun activities. And most importantly is to talk to your husband, is to have this conversation, because together you can build a marriage that's strong and fulfilling and really get the outcome you're looking for, even with your husband's entrepreneurial dreams. Because at the end of the day, you want to make certain that you are giving him an opportunity to build out what he thinks is best for the family, while at the same time being able to feel as if you're being heard and not taken for granted. Now, I know this could be some, hard things I've said, and maybe you may even see that I'm trying to somehow take the side of your husband and getting him and making excuses for him. No, I hope you're not hearing that. And if you're a husband, I hope you're not hearing me somehow making as if the wife somehow is, she's doing a better job than you. No, it's not about that. It's not about comparison. I wanted to take this time to talk to you both about the relationship. Now, we've come to the end of another exciting episode, and I'm glad you were here. Now, if you like what you've heard and want to go deeper, you want to begin by practicing having better communication if you have not heard that already. right? So I've created a free resource called 28 Daily Conversation Starter Guide that you can have simply by asking. So simply go to happiermarriagesecrets.com/start and request your copy. It's yours free for the asking. You'll find things to start talking about with your partner that makes it easy to begin a conversation. And the more you practice doing this, the better you will become at handling other tougher conversations that you're going to experience at some point or another. So get your free copy today at Happier Marriage Secrets, happiermarriagesecrets.com/start. The links will be in the description of this episode as well. So do that today. And now may the Lord bless you and give you his peace, both now and forever. Amen. God bless you until next time. Share this with at least one other person. I'll appreciate that. Thank you.